Hello and welcome to Cinema Savvy and welcome to a brand new movie review. It is George tonight. I'm joined by Chris and Tate as we bring you a review on the 2020 remake / Disney reboot / folklore story / other things attempt at making Mulan, an animated film which I have not seen and have no connection to. So you were probably thinking, we can't wait to hear his opinion. Well, let's just go straight into it, shall we, guys? I didn't actually watch this film. We're all very aware of the hashtag boycott Mulan. I'm going to go over a couple of reasons, and I'm going to get to the main event of why I didn't watch it, because I'm not that PC. I can have a laugh at other things, but I know how to play the ball, and I know when I get a limit with something. And a limit was crossed, which is something I've never seen in my 24 years of watching films, a limit that was crossed with this. So let's not even get to that. Let's get to the. I've got some Tenet notes, but it's on controversies from Mulan. So going in, don't worry, guys. We'll introduce each of our own bits, but for people watching at home, this is why I'm literally just going to go straight into it. So the first thing that the issue is the main actress, Yifei Li. Don't care how it's pronounced. Last year she came out. And on the Chinese social media site Weibo, which is basically their version of Facebook, because obviously they're ruled by communists and it's dictatorships and stuff, they're not allowed Facebook, so it's their own social media, can only access it in China. She shared a post from the CCP, which is the Chinese Communist Party, who obviously controls the country. And she put, "I support the Hong Kong police. You can beat me now. What a shame." Instantly, overnight, hashtag boycott Mulan was a big thing. It was a very big thing. It was so big that Disney removed her from D23 last year for promoting her, which is their own convention. So there's your first step. If you want to read into what's happening in Hong Kong, you don't already know. I'm not going to explain that here, but just do a Google, because if you don't already know, then you should. So there's the first big issue, is the actress. And your lead actress being in a shitstorm almost a year before the films come out is not a good sign for anything. And it had already filmed. Had it not filmed, they'd have removed her on the spot. Should have been gone. It would have been like the guy from Rogue One. We just didn't see him again. However, for this girl, she's cropped up a few times since. And then we can talk about the director as well. This isn't as bad. But she basically said, and I quote, "The people who are hired for all kinds of stories need to be diverse." That is, I know she's from New Zealand, and we don't get many New Zealand film directors. However, if this is the Asian Black Panther, which people kept mobbing this as, that here's our Asian cast, this is diverse, this is going to be this perfect representation of not just, I guess, a community that's not been seen on screen in blockbusters, but this is homage to the culture, to everything. And there's on the writing team, there's no Asian writers. The director's certainly not Asian either. Obviously, she's from New Zealand, but that's not China. And yeah, so there's just hypocrisy there from the get-go. And she kept having to defend directing the film. But everything she said, kind of just went against her own opinions. So that's another mini one. I'm not going to get to the character recasting, because I've not seen the animated, and I'll leave that for you two to delve into, because I've changed that before I went live on air. I feel really bad wearing a Disney hat as well. Let's get to the main thing, the news from Monday. So I did plan on watching this film. I'm willing to put one controversy aside to go into a film. I've done it for other things. Seven is still one of my favorite films of all time, and it stars Kevin Spacey. And Harvey Weinstein has obviously produced many things many of us have seen that many of the industry love. So I'm not saying I don't defend any of that kind of shit. They're all finished, good. However, I've never had something like this before a film come out. Now, I was planning on watching this on Tuesday night. Disney Premium, which we'll get to later on today, because that's actually got big repercussions across the industry, which could be a great thing, could be a bad thing. Some eagle-eyed viewer managed to stay on for the whole credits. And as you get towards the end of the credits, they thank eight company names, which are obviously all in Chinese. We don't understand them. And basically, the main thing of this is that they ended up coming out. They were filming in the Xinjiang region. I don't know how you pronounce that. It's Xinjiang. Now, you may have seen this on the news the last couple of years, even on BBC last month, even with footballers and NBA people last year. So in China, they basically have concentration camps now, but they call it the re-education camps, where basically since 2013, they have took millions of Muslims in the Uyghur region and shoved them into re-education camps to basically brainwash them. They've told the UN and the world, we're stopping terrorism, but it's 1940s Jews all over again in Nazi Germany. Now, as the years have gone by, the Chinese Communist Party have come out and said, no, this isn't true. We're repurposing them. They're giving them a new purpose in life. However, that population is starting to shrink. I can leave your own imaginations to find out where they're going. Even a month ago, a drone video got leaked where everyone's got shaved heads. They're all blindfolded. They're at a train station as well. They're all bandaged up. They're all in cuffs. And they're getting escorted onto trains. History repeats itself once more. And the evidence from this backdates to sort of 2013. However, it started to escalate in 2018 way. This is when you start to get actual evidence of these camps. Obviously, we don't have evidence of people being murdered, but it's not hard to assume it when population sizes are shrinking in camps where they're repurposing people's lives and their religions. It's also come out that there are some Christians in there as well. And unironically, because I watched Borat the other day, there's a lot of Kazakhstan people in there too. Maybe that'll be in the Borat sequel, who knows. However, a big thing for me last year was I'm massive on football. This isn't a football podcast, and I'm swaying off. I support Arsenal Football Club, which is a club that has always prided itself on its merits, its tradition as a football club. In terms of the big teams, they've always had this certain class. The managers they've hired, they're respecting, wearing suits. Everything from that club has always been about having class and representing. You represent the badge on the front. That's always been a thing. So one of the players, Mesut Ozil, who's a world-class player, was a world-class player, won the World Cup for Germany. He's obviously called out, he's a Muslim as well. He's called out racism a lot over the years. He doesn't play for Germany because of this. And last year he called out the Chinese government on Twitter. Arsenal then released a statement within 10 minutes saying that that's the views of our player, not us as a football club, because the Premier League had the biggest international TV deal at the time, 560 million, which is a lot of money for these clubs. So Arsenal distanced themselves from him. And then Chinese government contacted the Premier League and said, we're withholding payments until this player's at the Premier League, which is why in the news last week, the Premier League ripped up a contract with Chinese broadcasting people. Same thing happened in basketball. That I don't follow that much. All I know is last year, one coach came out, said the exact same thing. Chinese broadcasters went to the NBA and said, please get rid of this coach, get him off your screen to pay you money. They said, no, this is our basketball coach. Go fuck yourselves. So I've gone off on a tangent, and this isn't a Mulan discussion. However, on these principles, like I said, I'm willing to, put some things behind me if I watch a film. But to see on the news on Monday/Tuesday that this came out, filming, it wasn't like they filmed a day there. They filmed in multiple places within this region. And that is something that's untenable for me. Like, I messaged you guys, I can't remember, it was just Chris, it's like, in the past, I've been very lenient with things like Disney. I'm not defending them as a company at all. This is a limit that I've never seen crossed ever. Even from the worst companies of the worst, I wouldn't expect something this bad. Mm-hmm. And anyone that goes scouting recce's for a film, you're looking at regions, you're looking at land. Common sense of things like that is that you look into the land, the history, what it means, what you're going to do there. And obviously, because this is essentially we call it Mulan, it might as well be called the Chinese Communist Party's Mulan. Obviously, that was flushed under. Now, it's also come out this week that when this news broke, Disney will not release a statement. They've been approached for statements by most news outlets in the world, and they haven't said a word. However, in China, their government, the CCP, has now said that, sorry, I'm reading my notes, no one is to cover Xinjiang in the previews for films. Basically, the media has been blacked out. There'll be no press in China of this film. I think it's out either tomorrow or next Friday in China at cinemas as well. And no one's now allowed to mention that because obviously, they're trying to keep this as quiet as they can, but the damage is done for every other country that knows. So summed up as a whole, that's why I haven't reviewed this film. I'm interested to hear both of your thoughts because especially not just the film itself, but with the Disney reboots, with Disney as a company. Like I said, I'm not reviewing this, but I'm more or less here for a Q&A. But I need to get that off my chest. We don't do too many politics. Chris, I'm going to give it to you in a sec. We don't get big in politics, but for something like this, it is unfucking avoidable. Like, could you imagine if they'd filmed in Auschwitz, like a Hollywood blockbuster in like 1939? Mm-hmm. I mean, the camps weren't there then, but the concept was there. They still did all that shit. So, yeah. Fuck Mulan. Fuck Disney. Fuck the director. Fuck the cast. Fuck the actress. And go fuck yourself, CCP, as well. And it was nice knowing you both because I'm probably going to get sniped on a live stream now as well.
But they say that we say fuck Disney, but like in a month's time or whenever, when Black
I'll still
Widow
give them
comes
money.
out, everyone's going to be like, "Yay, Disney! More Marvel! Give us more Marvel!" And oh, actually, no, don't give us more Star Wars. Forget that. Take that back. We don't want any more of that. Give me 1 second. I'm so unprepared for this thing. Like literally, give me a second. Just talk amongst yourselves. Just
yeah, sure. I completely agree with you on this one. Like honestly, I always had the idea that I wouldn't pay money for this film. And that was always going to be in mind. Like, even if there was a premium on Disney Plus and everything like that, I wouldn't pay for the film. And I find it surprising that people are still paying the price for the film, but not only that, just paying for the film in general. I mean, both me and Chris, we're going to come out and say this now. We didn't pay for this film. We watched this on the high seas. And it's very weird saying that openly and stuff like that, but I'm happy to say that I did not give money to this film in any way, shape, or form. But obviously, we've all been subscribed to Disney Plus for a few months now. Like, my subscription's actually run out. But we've all, in turn, given money to Disney in that sense for this film to be funded, or at least to
I haven't given my money to Disney Plus. I will say that. I do not have Disney Plus.
I'm very lucky. So I paid for a year up front on the order. And then I was invited to the Disney Plus European premiere, which got cancelled due to Corona. So as a thanks, they gave everyone a free year. So I got my money back. So I can't really moan. And the only main thing I wanted to watch, we all pirated a year ago anyway. And I, like I said, I've got it free for a year. Well, I think it's a really good discussion to have about the premium price thing, because not just Disney. That's going to have, as a film industry, that's very big.
I don't like it. I don't like it. And
I mean, I didn't know if we're having it now, but
I mean, we may as well go into it now. But cinemas are struggling enough as they are. I'm happy to go over and actually watch a cinema on the big screen. You're paying 20 quid on top of whatever it is the premium is. I think it might be a little bit more than that, but I understand their logic behind it. You're watching it at home, your entire family's going to watch it, you're going to watch it a few times, and as long as you've got the subscription, so as long as you're paying us that $5.99 a month or however much it is for the Disney Plus, you're going to be able to still watch the film. The second that $5.99 subscription ends, though, you can't watch the film anymore, so you've already given in that money and stuff like that. As far as I'm concerned, when you go to a cinema, you're not just going to watch the film, you're going for the experience. You're going there to watch it on the big screen with the surround sound, with everything, the atmosphere, like the darkened room. You can't replicate that experience at home. I'm sorry, no amount of home cinema will allow you to replicate the experience that you get in cinemas. And it's why I love cinema so much. It's why I'm happy to go to cinemas. It's why over the last few years I've had a cinema card where I can go every single week to go and watch as many films as I want, because I'd rather have that experience than an experience of watching a film at home. It's very comfortable and it's very easy to access the film at home, but that's not always why you want to go to the cinema. And this film going on to this streaming service and stuff like that, you just don't get the same experience. I sat there watching it on my laptop, and I'm sure a lot of people will be. People will be watching it on their phones and on their TVs and stuff like that. It just won't feel the same. It just won't. So as far as the experience is concerned, it's a massive downgrade down, and I feel like you're paying more money to do that, which is wrong.
Well, the disappointment will be exactly the same if you saw it in cinema or saw it at home.
In fact, the disappointment probably would have been more seeing it in cinema because of those things in particular. But cinema can be polarizing. I'm okay with that. But this film is polarizing in all the wrong ways. It completely is, and I don't agree with the money that you're having to pay to go and actually watch it. I don't agree with any of the decisions that Disney made going forward with this film. I don't agree with any of the actors' decisions in this film for that sense as well. This entire production can only be described as one of the greatest messes, one of the biggest just overall failures of a film you could possibly imagine. And I know we're not going into major spoilers here about the review just yet, but this is probably going to end up as my worst of the year for multiple different reasons aside from the actual film itself.
We have actually had a comment from Carl. We've had two comments from Carl now. He says, we're in the middle of a pandemic and Disney expect people to pay $30 to £20 to unlock a film. Well, I didn't give them any of my money. As I said, I don't have Disney Plus, and even if I did, I wouldn't pay the money to see a film when in a couple of months' time it's going to be free anyway. He just mentions that Pixar's Soul is also going to be on there. I think this is going to set the trend, but Disney are really at a lose-lose with this film, because waning interest from people. I know they're trying to like crush the whole political side, and that's just Disney as a company. They're just trying to save face. They don't. This is quite a big thing politically, but we've seen them do this for countless other franchises where they'll lie and press things, and then later on, we're seeing it with Star Wars now, where the cast have been coming out talking more about the behind the scenes. You don't get any of that in the behind the scenes of the DVD or the Blu-ray or in press junkets or everything like that. Everything was fine. Everyone was one big happy family, and everyone got on smoothly. And that's just the face of Disney now. They're never going to be candid because they're a brand. They've got to maintain that brand. I guarantee they have their fingers in a lot of pies. They probably thought, let's just go along with all of these things because we're making a movie, it'll make us a lot of money. And that's essentially what this movie is. And I'm going to sort of get on to my experiences with this film, or lack of experiences, in that Mulan's one of my favorite Disney films. And you know what? All of these live action reviews that we've done, I don't think I was on the one for Lion King because I didn't see that. Aladdin was the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. That was the last live action Disney film that I watched. I outright refused to watch Lion King. I still refuse to watch it now. Beauty and the Beast crippled me. All of them come out, and it's just like a sniper, just taking them out one by one, all my favorite Disney films. Now, Mulan was dear to my heart, but when the trailers first came out for this thing and I saw the martial arts and everything, they're really manipulative. They throw that Reflection song from the original Disney film, and it's like an epic cinematic version, and it plays on your nostalgia and it gets you in, as all of these do. But out of all of them, I thought, in terms of live action remakes, Mulan could actually work in terms of the battle scenes and the war scenes and just the culture in general, the costumes and the sets and everything. This could be pretty special if done right. And, then we had news come out that there wasn't going to be any music in there, and the Mulan fan in me is like, I'll make a man out of you is not going to be in the film. Okay, fine. And I made my peace with it, but I thought, in terms of a live action, war scenes, battle scenes, it would be weird if they all started to break into song. That stuff kind of works for the more fairy tale kind of stories, maybe like Beauty and the Beast, not so much for this thing. And then they were saying things like Mushu, Eddie Murphy's character in the film, the sidekick dragon, wasn't going to be in there. Slowly but surely, I could see that all of these things that added charm to the film. And
very interestingly, Mushu was originally added by Disney into the story. He wasn't in the original story of Mulan, in the original folktale, you'd say. There was no dragon that aided her or looked over her family or anything like that.
But this is Disney's Mulan. This is
correct. Yeah,
Disney's Mulan. So if they're going with that,
it's not Disney's Mulan. And George pointed out
CCP's
earlier,
Mulan.
CCP's Mulan. They didn't want the dragon, so they didn't get the.
I'm not going to defend them. I'm going to make a point. Do we think if they made a statement, that film would get blocked off coming out in China next week? I think it would.
Yeah, it would.
Because they're wrong. But
if Disney made a statement apologizing for anything that's happened with this film, then it would immediately get blocked.
Well, it's too little, too late at this point.
This is the thing, isn't it? It's out. I mean, we're talking about this in September. This was the next film being released before lockdown. They spent their entire marketing budget on this film. They had the world premiere on March the 9th. This was geared up for release. And kind of jumping back, I want to kind of address what Tay mentioned with the video on demand stuff. That's a big thing for this industry. And as Carl said, he put the word unlock a film, and that's the key word. You don't own that. Yeah. You don't own that anyway. I'm against video on demand as a whole. I will never, ever pay to rent a film on iTunes, to buy a film on iTunes. It's on the account, it's fine. If I get a code in my Blu-ray, that's fine. But even recently, I've discovered that the films I bought on Blu-ray, which I got codes for, got transferred to Google Play, and it goes from being HD to standard definition. And the snob me is like, well, that's just bollocks. But anyway, the concept is interesting. Soul, I think they're going to try cinemas. However, I wouldn't mind paying 20 quid for an original Pixar film that looks different. It's a project by project thing. My main thing with this is that they spent their marketing budget. There's no release date window they can put this at cinemas for. And if they move one more film, what's the next Disney release at cinemas? Black Widow. You mean Black Widow? You have to move the next 3 years of Marvel again. So Mulan to me was okay, let's chuck this on our website and let's see how this plays. I think this is a big test. And we can all thank Trolls 2 for this, because we had the whole Universal debacle where they claimed they made $100 million off Trolls 2. And that was like £15. And again, if it's a family, it works out cheaper for them to watch at home than at a cinema. If there's 2 of you or less, it's pointless. Now, mine will always be case by case. I want to see these films at cinemas. Maybe I'd actually prefer to watch. I mean, Soul's going to be at London Film Festival, so fingers crossed the 3 of us will be able to see that together. But the fundamental difference is making Mulan a premium. And I'd get it if Black Widow was the first one. a premium price for a Marvel film that's starring an A-list. I get that. For the most controversial film, maybe of the last 10 years, I'm going to go out and limb and put now, maybe longer than that. You want people to pay good money for this, and the whole gimmick. Oh, it's on Disney Plus if your country doesn't have Disney Plus. That translated to.
I was going to add to that. The problem with the Universal thing is you bought the film, you could keep it.
Yeah, but you can never keep it. If you read the terms and conditions, it's not physical. It's not a disc in your hand.
You have to pay a subscription service to be able to access the film. The film was readily available whenever you wanted it.
If you buy it, like iTunes has done, you can buy a DVD like this. This is on my desk. This isn't intentional.
Yeah.
This is yours forever. This film could get banned in a million countries or population streaming, but that disc will always remain with me. iTunes has been quiet the last few years where they're starting to delete things off iTunes. People paid good money for that years ago. They're starting to get rid of them. And this is the whole digital versus thing. I get streaming. I love streaming. I love my Netflix films. I love my Amazon series. But you don't physically own that, and you never can unless they put it on that release. And it's such dangerous territory. And the worst thing about Mulan is that we all knew it was going to be free on Disney Plus, because one of the big selling points of Disney Plus is that the films will be free as soon as they basically pass the broadcasting/cinema date. So Rise of Skywalker was free on May the 4th, like 5 months after release, which is rare for a streaming service getting a big film as well. And Mulan's like asterisk will be free on December the 4th. Like, if you're really going to pay $30, 20 quid just to watch this film 3 months early, then quite frankly, you've got far too much money to be spending on films too.
But this is what I mean. It's the safe bet for Disney because, and here's the thing, like, we're clued up. We're in the know. Our general moviegoers going to know all of this political stuff that's going on.
I'll be honest, it's been all over the news, and I've seen
this one has. The actress stuff got a little bit of like sort of headline news a year ago, went very quiet very quickly because it's not that big in terms of grand scale. This is on a level we've not seen, and it adds to the issues this film has.
But I guarantee, like, a family of whatever, say if this was coming out at the cinema, they'd see Disney Mulan. We remember Mulan. Let's go, fun family day out, and they're not going to know anything beyond that. So I think there still would be that sort of like blissfully ignorant audience. There definitely is more traction with this. I know, George, you mentioned to me, and when we were chatting on Facebook, you said that when this was released, you had hashtag Mulan. The very second thing that was trending was hashtag boycott Mulan. So I'd definitely say there is more trend for this. So here's the thing, right? Disney can't release this thing in cinemas due to COVID because they're not going to make the money back. There's waning interest. There's all this stuff that's going on Twitter and people becoming more aware of everything, and more stuff's coming to light, most of which George has highlighted at the beginning of this review. What do? Their last bet is to put it on Disney Plus, whack a price tag on it, because they're a business. They need to make their money back. And what did you say, George?
200 million budget. So I've got actually the stats up here on my screen. So Variety estimated 8.4 million subscribers to break even. That's at $30 per rental, I guess we can say. So Disney haven't released numbers because they don't ever have to with their streaming services. They keep their own figures. However, Deadline Hollywood, who are very reliable, are reporting that they believe 1.4 million households in America, not the world, in America, watched it over the weekend. So that's like I want to say, what, $30 to $40 million opening weekend, which isn't bad. The fact they're getting their cinema release next year, that's just America. That's just American numbers. That's not the rest. Well, whole of Europe's got it as well. I think some parts of Asia have it, but essentially most of Asia is going to have it at the cinemas. So, they don't need. It's for a format, taking aside Mulan, taking aside Disney Plus, it makes it interesting from a numbers perspective that there may be this now a sudden trend where this film might bomb because of Corona, because we can't get a cinema release date. Let's get it online. One thing we've seen across lockdown, I know we've waged off Mulan, but my kind of final thought on the streaming side is films like the Trial of the Chicago 7, which is one of the big Oscar favorites. Paramount, whoever it was, sold the rights to Netflix because they can't guarantee a cinema release date. They can't guarantee the film will make its money back. But Netflix are going to make them an offer where they can recoup a certain amount. And you've noticed that a lot. Enola Holmes is one of them that's coming out next week on Netflix, where these companies are kind of starting to shit it. because they know they can't put these films in the cinemas right now. That release schedule is bogged down for at least a year of big films coming out, and people don't have the confidence to fully go. And you kind of sit here thinking that I can see why it's a beautiful thing about having online streaming, that some of these companies will be able to make their money back, certainly for the smaller and medium-sized budget. But a $200 million tentpole, there is a reason why those films need the cinema slots. You can't make them numbers back up online. And if Disney do it with Mulan, that would be I don't want to say incredible achievement, but that would be a industry-changing move. And I would imagine they start doing that to other things. That's my kind of final thoughts on streaming. Going back to what Chris said ages ago, in terms of the animated stuff, I was with you on this. I knew that there was a certain lore to Mulan, that it was a mythical thing, but in Chinese culture, Mulan's this kind of story. And, certainly with these Disney films, as in animated ones, a lot of the Disney animated films, they are fairy tales from hundreds of years ago. They've adapted and put their own spin on it, and they've become classics in their own way. I think the ones that jump to mind more than anything is probably Peter Pan, in terms of something that's been done forever and ever. And obviously Cinderella was one as well, wasn't it? And it's a shame, because this is the one that, as I'd never seen the anime film, I was looking forward to seeing. As someone that hadn't seen a lot of these films, I want to see this culture shown on screen. This was, again, make a bad comparison to Black Panther, this was meant to be this authentic experience, which it completely wasn't, isn't, and won't ever could be. And bringing on to the fact of these Disney live action reboots as well, where the only one where I feel that there was an idea by a filmmaker to do something, approach someone to make a film, I still maintain to this day Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book. He created new technology. The tech we're seeing in The Mandalorian is something he created for The Jungle Book and developed and developed and developed. That strikes me as an idea that he wanted to do that, and we always teased on the channel back then, Timon and Pumbaa's in the credits, there'll be a Lion King film if this film's good. And that's exactly what happened. And going back before then to Cinderella's probably the second best Disney reboot after...
I'd say it's probably the only one other than Jungle Book that's got positive reviews, overwhelmingly positive reviews from everyone.
But that was the first one. It wasn't a trend to do these reboots. This was an accomplished, legendary actor/director, the one, the only, Gilderoy Lockhart, Sir Kenneth Branagh himself, approaching Disney. I want to make a live-action Cinderella film, and he did, and it was good. And then it's not the clocks are whirring. There's a studio exec's head that goes, "There's money in this. Let's do them all." And it's kind of become not a laughing culture, but we talk about sort of D23, and like you think of these upcoming states where Marvel will announce 20 films. Disney's like, they've done this one. Or they've not done that one, but we know they can't make a Pocahontas film. But they haven't done Hunchback. That'll be next. Oh, look, it is next. Hercules, they're not doing. Okay, that's next on the list. It's now like a tick list. It's gone from here's our project ideas to let's carry on the list. When it's a shame, because within this now insane franchise, because it is a franchise, and it's ironic because it's literally called the Disney live action reboots. There are going to be some good ideas that could have been great films that they're going to be stuck in this franchise thing. Again, Cinderella, Jungle Book, where I think a filmmaker could have approached them to have done that before this big thing even became a big thing. And it's escalated and gone out of control. And that's
you're never going to have a good idea, though, with modern Disney. Right. As a studio, like Disney as it once was in the golden age, like the 90s into the 2000s, Disney isn't that studio anymore. It just isn't. It completely isn't. And as you said, it's the model. It's the business model. It's what made a lot of money. Oh, like Lion King was popular. Let's just redo that. Literally make exactly the same movie, put it out there. And this is just another one. It's just one by one, and we know they've got Little Mermaid lined up. There's talks of Hercules, and it's going to be all of them. It will be all of them. And this is a quote. Yes, yeah.
They can't be.
I see Disney trying for a Tarzan as well. I see them trying for a Hunchback. I see them trying with
Hunchback's in production. Hunchback's in production. Now, again, we predicted that on the channel in the Beauty and the Beast review, because you can see the Notre Dame.
And I know they're going to do, as I said, like I know that Disney are going to do some grimy shit where they're going to say like so much of the ticket prices are going to go towards rebuilding Notre Dame, and we're a altruistic company and we care about everything. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And this is we're seeing through the veneer now of Disney. I mean, I've seen through it for ages, but I think this one really has brought it into the focus. But
let's because we've been talking about the impact of the film. If you actually take the film itself And I'm saying completely remove the fact that this had an original film. Completely remove the fact that like this was a remake, a live-action Disney film. Just remove all of that. If you watch the film with no context, if you didn't even know there was a Mulan film first, it's still probably one of the worst films you will see, like, period. It's awful. And I was talking to you, I was live messaging you guys when I first started watching this film. The editing in the opening scene is enough to send an epileptic person off into a fit. No, genuinely.
Is it like the Oscar winning for best editing Bohemian Rhapsody when there was that scene of like 100 cuts in?
It's like that, but imagine if Bohemian Rhapsody had action scenes with that. It's so ridiculous, and they change the colors of the backgrounds and stuff. It's ridiculous, and she's chasing a chicken, and she's doing some Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon shit. But even in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it looked better than it did in this film, and that was 2000. That was made. This is 20 years past that. Like we've also, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but the CGI in this film is, in some parts, okay at best, and at worst, it's like PS1 cutscene kind of bad. Like I don't know what it is about avalanches and CGI, but I haven't seen a good one yet that I can remember. And I think we talked about this in another film which had an avalanche.
It's War for the Planet of the Apes, probably.
War for the Planet of the Apes, probably. They don't know how avalanches work. No idea.
I think it's because you can't actually do them. Maybe Tom Cruise will blow up a mountain for Mission Impossible 8, who knows?
Please. But if you're just taking this film just off the basis of it, without referring it back to the original, it's an awful film. The acting is like Bollywood B-level. That's no offense to Bollywood here. B-level Bollywood acting. The kind of things that you see when you watch like compilations of like the action scenes in those films where you're always laughing. It's that bad. The brilliant scenes that you saw from the trailer, they've thrown a cut in the middle. They'll show the flip or something like that. Then they'll cut to a second angle midway through the flip and then cut back to the original angle, which was perfectly fine. So there's no fluidity to the film. There's no fluidity to the martial arts. And I always thought, like, martial arts are meant to look fluid. They're meant to look majestic whilst also looking like aggressive and stuff like that. That's the whole
you pull back into a wide shot, you watch the whole thing play out like John Wick or The Raid. Or
That's why the Raid was one of the best action ones forever, because they kept everything within frame. It's apparently it's a mind-blowing concept, but it's the common sense concept.
But if you go back and you actually compare it to the original Mulan, which is the point that I'm trying to get around to, they've changed the characters. That's fine. Like they wanted to try something different. That's perfectly fine. They add in this new character who's a witch, and I have so many problems with this. First of all, they wanted to keep it grounded, keep it realistic. So they got rid of the dragon. They brought in a witch who turns into a flock of birds, which immediately makes you go, okay, so they're definitely not suspending the belief here. And what they do with Mulan's character might be one of the worst character changes I've ever seen. Mulan as a character is meant to be this, like, she's meant to be some kind of just hero. She's normal. That's the whole brilliant thing about Mulan. Mulan is meant to be just this normal girl who works hard and trains and becomes a badass warrior. And we all loved the film for that. But they gave her superpowers in this film. They go and give her the power of chi, which allows her to do these flips and able to like manipulate spears and do all these fucking magic shit things. It's just fucking awful.
So what they've done is then, so they've just
going back. I hate this film.
Right, this is.
Can I intervene with something else I've discovered in the last 30 seconds?
Yeah, go for it.
The main actress in an interview in March, she described herself as Asian, not Chinese. And apparently, like in China, they all kicked off. So, yeah, it's like that kind of like Scottish, not British type thing, isn't it? Just another thing to add to that fire.
But here's where I have to make my my shocking admission. Almost 35 minutes into the review, this is amazing. So I want to bring up Carl's comment here, where he says the problem is these films make money. Lion King made over $1 billion. It absolutely did. Which
I watched it 3 times.
That money should go to the original because it was basically the original film. And yeah, so these live action films, I've always had a problem with them. And I always find them completely unnecessary, especially when the original still holds up, which, let's be honest, Beauty and the Beast did, Cinderella does, Lion King does. Pretty much everything they've made, the original holds up completely fine. And, you know, does the characters justice. It tells the story in a condensed, conducive amount of time. It doesn't outstay its welcome. Mulan right here, the original film, 84 minutes. It clocks in the running time of that film, and it does everything brilliantly with that amount of runtime. Characters get fleshed out, even side characters get fleshed out. People have themes, people have character arcs. Remember those? You have time for comic relief. It does everything it needs to in that time slot. You don't need 2 hours, but unless you've got something else to say, which I'm guessing this film absolutely doesn't. So not only did I not give my money to this film, but this is the first one, like Lion King, where I didn't give my time to this film. I haven't actually seen this film either. Now, I completely agree with George on all the political stuff, and that is the reason that he hasn't chose to watch that movie. I completely agree with everything he said, and this film's fucking abhorrent. I have chose not to watch this film based on Disney's track record of the live actions, what I've heard on reviews. I've seen trailers. I know exactly everything that they have changed from the original film into the new one, so I kind of feel like I've already seen it and am aware of what they have changed, that I don't need to see it. And you know what? I'm not going to give my time to these anymore. I'm not going to do it, because if I want to see Mulan, Disney's Mulan, a good version of the film where the story is told and it's brilliant and it's perfect, I'll go and watch this or this. This is my original video from when I was 5 years old, 1998 right here.
Chris,
still have
please
it.
tell me it's got the Oriental tape on the inside, as in the
Oriental
red
tape.
No, okay, that's a really bad way of putting it. A red tape with like the Chinese writing around the inside.
No, it's just got
You
that.
do not have
That's
the
it.
original.
Remember
Chris.
these things?
You do not
Remember
have the
these
original tape, because I've got the original tape somewhere in my house.
But
which has...
the whole, yeah, like the whole point. Okay, right. I'm just gonna. This is gonna be like a Q&A. George said it at the beginning. This is basically going to be a Q&A.
Yeah. You guys can ask me questions about this film then.
Obviously, George hasn't seen the original animated. I've seen the animated, so I've got that sort of like basis of sort of a comparison between the two. The whole the biggest problem that I had was like trailer 2, where we saw the villains, where you had, he's called something different, but he's basically the Shan Yu character. He's the big sort of bad leader of the Huns from the original film. I'm gonna go on. Sorry, Tate.
Yeah, I want to go into this because this may answer your question. So the original plot to the film is the Emperor feels under threat. Yeah, from like Shan Yu. Yeah, like there's an army and they're going to take over the kingdom. Mm-hmm. It's not like there's not many of them. It's just an army that's going to take over the kingdom. This film features a witch, this new villain guy who I can't even remember the name. I got to actually pull it up here. Bori Khan, and then what is about 12 people on horses, and yet the plot is still the same. The Emperor feels under threat from these 12 guys on horses and a witch, so he takes one member from each household throughout the whole of China, all regions,
to take down these 12 guys.
To take down 12 guys and a witch.
The witch. I want to talk about the witch. I want to talk about the witch. So, trailer 2 came out, and there's this sort of Shan Yu guy. Now, I'm going to say, like, the villain from the original Mulan film, I say it's a perfect film and everything like that. Oh, Carl there. I haven't seen it either. Refuse to pay. Just here for the channel. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for sticking around.
Carl, one thing. Actually, anyone else is watching, if you're watching later, comment if you had to pay for a Disney video on demand. A, would you? B, of the upcoming slate, nothing 3 years, nothing 5 years. Of the next year, Black Widow, Soul, what's the Legend of the She-Ra, the new animated one? It's actually original for a change. Would you pay for anything Disney related, not including Mandalorian and already Disney Plus now shows? I would for Soul. I wouldn't for others. Maybe Black Widow a bad push. I'd nick that for friend's account. But the only one I'd be willing to put money into would be Soul, because it's an original Pixar film, and I fucking love Pixar.
That's fair. Go on.
I'll take you off topic, sorry.
You're asking about the witch.
But the witch, yes. So, you know, I say that the original animated is perfect, and it is to me, and the villain is perfectly functional in that film. He doesn't have the biggest amount of depth to him. He's just kind of like an intimidating bad guy. But they hit those intimidating moments. You have those moments where the two innocent messengers come up to them and he says like, I want you to send a message back to the emperor or something, or tell them that we're coming. And both of them run off, and then he's like, how many men does it take to deliver a message? And then his archer guy just goes, one, and then it cuts to black. Like that's cool stuff. And he is imposing. He fits the point of a villain, although he's not like a Frollo, for example.
They try to recreate that scene where they kill everyone in the village and then there's one person left and this witch person just comes up to him and says, you'll do.
Okay, I rest my case. Anyway, the witch. Okay, so the whole point and purpose of Mulan is that obviously it's a patriarchal society. Women aren't warriors. Women don't do battle. Women raise kids, they cook, they clean, they belong at the home. That's essentially
look beautiful, they do up their makeup, they're meant to meet with a matchmaker.
Exactly. Complete patriarchal society, and that is the point of Mulan. When Mulan becomes the savior of China, and where she does this training and where she becomes a soldier in the Chinese army, it has never been done before. It's a complete freak occurrence, completely unique, and that's what makes Mulan special. When you throw in a witch who's a warrior who, from what I've heard from reviews, is a witch who can turn into a hawk. It's kind of playing on from the original hawk.
She can turn into a hawk. She can also turn into a flock of birds. And I mean a big flock of birds. Like, I'm not saying the bird Alfred Hitchcock. I'm saying birdemic kind of.
Right.
That kind of level of CGI as well.
But the hawk in the original, it was literally just sort of the sidekick to the villain. Like he'd send the hawk out and it would go and scout something and it would come back. That was all the hawk was. It wasn't a character. It certainly wasn't a witch. There was no other female warriors. And the fact that another female warrior exists in this world, who, as far as I know, joins with the Huns in this film because she's trying to just sort of like join a side for the winning side kind of thing because of this patriarch. She's a witch that can turn into a bird. What does she care about where she belongs in the world? She can literally fly fucking anywhere she wants to.
I kind of know your point. And as far as her powers are concerned, she basically takes out an entire village from the inside, and then these 12 riders, it may be 12, it may be less even. I didn't actually take time to count. Just kind of march in and just kind of finish off anyone else who's left over. She basically does all the heavy work and takes out everyone. And
because strong female warrior person, 2020.
Her entire arc, because believe it or not, she's the only person in the entire film that probably has a character arc that you could say. Not even Mulan has one in this film.
Priorities, right? Don't even give it to your lead. Give it to this completely fictional created character.
Yeah, that's the one. Basically, her arc is she was a witch. She was outcast, and she goes to Bori Khan, the main villain. Because he promises her to be free and stuff like that. And she never respected the emperor because she felt oppressed. But then she sees Mulan and she fights her and she tries to kill her but doesn't quite kill her. And that means that she sees that Mulan is strong, and she kind of gives Mulan a break after that for a bit. And then she sees that Mulan is leading the group towards the end of the film towards like saving the emperor. So she decides, you know what? You're a girl boss, so I'm going to be a girl boss too. You're a good guy. You're a woman in power. So suddenly I could be a woman in power too, ? So she decides to sacrifice her life to save Mulan by turning into a hawk and flying in front of an arrow. And then her final line is like, go. I'm quoting here. It may as well have been her looking up to Mulan and saying, go be a girl boss. And like, yeah.
So they're taking kind of roughly the same story conceit of, you know, a woman, you know, someone who's looked down in society can be a hero above everyone else, you know. But the thing is with Mulan as well, and you talked about the chi thing, and I wanted to come back to that. Yeah. So Mulan can do all of this cool stuff. It's like midichlorians, right? It's just like if it's in your bloodstream, you can do it.
Here's the thing, though. The film would have been fine with this chi thing if she wasn't the only character who had it. But she is the only character who has this chi thing, which makes her stand out. So she doesn't go from being a girl who is put in the same situation, but just works harder and ends up being the best warrior through having hard work, through having effort, through having dedication. She ends up being the best because she was born with the power to be the best.
Which completely assassinates her character. And
her character completely.
Again, why the original is better. You see her struggles. She can't keep
Yeah.
up with the other. None of the guys in the troupe are any good anyway, but she struggles to keep up with them. She has to sort of like fight through it and work harder and, you know, power through it and everything. You have the montage in the film, I'll Make a Man Out of You, where she proves herself, and you have that passage of time.
Instead of having that, they kind of go with a, I want to say, semi-Lion King approach here to be prepared. So some of the lines from I'll Make a Man Out of You are spoken as part of a conversation.
I've seen the bit in the trailer where he says, like, we're going to make men out of each and every one of you.
No, I'm talking about all the individual lines of the song are spoken
Christ.
out. Not all of them, but a string of them are spoken from the Mulan songs in a conversation. As in, they wanted to pay homage by just dropping them in instead of actually singing the songs.
Yeah.
But
I mean, again, like, I don't have a problem with them removing the songs if that was the theme they're going for. But if they're doing Disney's Mulan, just do Disney's Mulan, or better still, just don't, because Disney's Mulan exists. It's here.
I've got 3 more points from this film that I want to go through. Okay, I've got 3 more points. So the first point is the avalanche, which we've already talked about. So in the original, I actually can't remember how she set off the avalanche. Can you please remind me, Chris? Because I just wanted.
They have sort of like cannons, dragon-shaped cannons, and the army's charging towards her. All the other army are shooting directly at the enemy, but she takes the initiative, aims it at like a nearby mountain, which explodes and then creates the avalanche to take out the entire army.
This avalanche.
She shoots one cannonball at a mountain, and it creates an avalanche.
Yeah.
It's somewhat suspending belief, but I'm actually going to draw battle plans here. So this is the mountain there. You've got Mulan there. I'm going to put an M for Mulan. I'm going to put a V for villain and villain's army, and then you've got the heroes over here. So this is what it looks like here. So you've got the mountain up here. You've got Mulan, who is now at the foot of the mountain here, separated from the heroes group, which is over on this side here. And the villains are here with their cannons. The villains are firing at the heroes. They're bombarding them with the giant trebuchet kind of like catapult things here. And then Mulan decides to start firing just firing arrows at the villains here.
All 12 of them.
All 12 of them. So the villains turn around with their catapult trebuchet thing and fire it back at the single Mulan who's there, and that's what triggers the avalanche. So it's not Mulan being clever that triggers the avalanche, it's the villains being stupid that triggers the avalanche.
Again, there's another clang, another character assassination for Mulan.
I feel like I'm watching Tenet for the first time again. I don't know what anyone's talking about.
I'm the only one who doesn't have notes and paper today. Like I'm the weak link apparently with these notes.
So
but
the second point I wanted to make, you know, the scene where they're joking, they're making fun, they're throwing snowballs in the snow and stuff like that. And they come across the burning village and no one speaks. They just let the music take over. They see the helmets in the snow. What do they have instead? Not even them having fun moments beforehand to match up with the darker moment to come. They cut straight away from a night scene where Mulan is trying to like show that she's not a woman in the lake and stuff like that, to just burning helmets in the snow. You don't know whose helmet it is. There's no context for it. And then suddenly the army's at this village. So there's no context of, oh, it was one of the general's families or anything like that. They basically go and explain the situation. They say, oh, the villain must have come through here with his men. He's killed so many people. We'll have to go to battle with them tomorrow. Whereas in the original, you've got that subtle kind of...
visuals like tell everything.
No one says a word because they're in shock. You see people's reactions. Even Mushu's just like jaw dropped, tear coming down eye. Like, and he's the comedy relief character and he's in shock and that hits you. This film just goes, nope, just cut to the burning stuff and we'll have the characters explain why it's burning.
And that's the live actions in a nutshell. It's like you have all these recognizable moments. You have the lake scene, as you mentioned. You have the avalanche scene. You have this scene of the completely ruined village. But it misses the point. Like some people go, oh, this is great because I remember that scene. But there's so much more context and heart. And the original film always says more in all those moments. We talked about Beauty and the Beast where you know, they have the dance scene, they have the bit where he gives her the library, but it's all the little moments, it's all the little bits of charm that equate to much, much more in the original compared to the new one. And it sounds like this is doing exactly the same thing. The one thing from the trailer, you've already talked about the action, so I won't go into this completely in depth, but the one thing from the trailer that I was even mildly curious about was the fight scenes and the martial arts, because I am a big fan of some of those other martial art films like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, House of Flying Daggers, Curse of the Golden Flower, other films like that. I used to love buying those and look forward to them. Don't really get many films like that now, at least not that I'm aware of. But I used to love those films. So seeing the action in this and seeing Mulan sort of like run up walls and cartwheel and everything like that, from a visual perspective, I thought this is really cool until I just heard that she has chi, which has really kind of annoyed me. I don't know why they do that.
All of the cool shots that would have maybe go, okay, that was pretty cool to watch. They cut halfway through.
In the editing.
They want to get as many cuts in as possible on all those action scenes. And I thought, okay, that's just the first scene. Maybe it will calm down. The entire film's like that. You know, in the original where she's like, you see her kind of putting on the armor when she's about to leave home and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And she's like getting ready and she's kind of got tears in her eye and stuff like that. She then goes in the dark of night when it's raining and leaves, and like her family's like trying to chase after her, but the father's too weak. Nope, let's just cut to her being in the armor, cut to her leaving a note, and then cut to the parents the next morning coming across her comb left over. Not even them chasing after her. Literally just cut to cut to cut. They're removing any context. They're removing any emotion from any scene.
And speaking of the armor as well, I heard there's a scene where she wears the armor during the entire battle in the film because you'd need to, in a war, you'd have to wear armor. And she even still gets injured in the armor. And that's how she gets discovered in the original film. She's wounded sort of like in the ribs, in the stomach area. She wakes up in an infirmary tent. She's covered in bandages. That's when the commander goes in. And then he sees that she's obviously a woman. So,
are you ready for this? In this film, she unveils herself. Instead of being discovered, what she does is she tries to come back and she uses her chi. And when she uses her chi, she accidentally unveils the ribbon that was holding up her hair while she's fighting, doing all these flips and shit like that.
I heard that she throws her armor off as well in the middle of a battle because it's too heavy and it's getting in the way.
She throws off the arm and then she starts doing flips and her hair unravels and you can easily see it's a woman, even though in the original
she's strong and impervious now and godlike and nothing.
Doesn't cut her hair in this one. She just ties it up into a top knot because that's very modern.
So summed up in this one, she's basically on roids and she isn't in the original.
She's Rey. She's Rey Skywalker in this, apparently.
Yeah. Final point, because this is the last point I'm going to make about this film. We said this was going to be 20 minutes long. This ended up being an hour-long review. I'm going to try and keep it to that. The last point I wanted to make was the finale. Now, the finale doesn't take place in the palace like it does in the original. It takes place in what I can only describe as a building yard for a second palace. So there's actual like scaffolding and shit like that. It looks like modern day scaffolding as well. It's not like, oh, it's ancient bamboos. No, it looks like a fucking building site. And basically the emperor is being held hostage over a vat of like molten metal with a very intricate system of him being tied up and being almost, he isn't being lowered over it, but it looks like he's going to take away the floor and he's going to drop down into the metal to kill him.
Did Jet Li actually get to fighting on in this?
Just for about 15 seconds, maybe less, before he's captured. It's literally.
Does Donnie Yen do anything in this?
Donnie Yen does fuck all in this film.
Wow,
that was the only shred of hope I actually had before.
Well, that's lost George instantly. So.
But anyway, this finale, she defeats the villain. I'm not even going to Bori Khan.
Well, that just says it all. The villain, that 2-hour film, and you don't even know the name of the villain.
She defeats Bori Khan, and then as a killing blow, what she does is, are you ready for this? She backheels a spear, kicks it up into the air, does a spin up in the air like a tornado, and kicks the spear down, which kills him. Which, I'm not going to lie, that move is straight out of Shaolin Soccer, like Shaolin Soccer. It's straight out of that film, which is a cheesy kind of film where they use martial arts in football. And there's one move where he literally goes up into a tornado, and then spin kicks the ball midair and it goes flying down into the net. That's how the film ended. The film ended with her spin kick, like doing keepy ups with a spear and then kicking it into his chest. It was. I was just in disbelief. I was like, "What the fuck did I just watch?"
From everything I'm hearing, it's just
I was expecting some kind of like interesting way that he died. Like maybe they did it like Tarzan, so Clayton dies from like his own kind of cutting the strings and stuff like that. That would have made more sense than okay, Mulan used her chi, which the main villain doesn't have, and defeated him in battle because she has superpowers and the main villain does not have superpowers. And she does Shaolin soccer and kills him, and then she's like heralded as a hero, but she goes back to her own village, and that's basically the end of the film.
Ultimately, what it sounds like with this film is faults on a number of areas. Number one, the action. If you are going for like spectacle and martial arts, and even like the cast that they have can showcase that they can do martial arts and all these great action films, and they're just completely wasted in the film.
I don't think Donnie Yen didn't do a single bit of martial arts in this film.
Mm-hmm. So you
at least Jet Li got like 10 seconds before getting tied up in rope.
So you're losing people instantly on the action. Second one is the villains. You've got all the focus shifted onto this new female witch character, which I'll get into as sort of like my final thoughts. Completely dismantles the end.
The only saving grace in this film is, even though the cinematography for this film is awful, her design looks okay.
I mean, it's just a completely pointless character. It didn't need to be there in the original. It doesn't need to be in this one. To me, it ruins the theme of Mulan, which I'll round off on my closing thoughts with. So all of this focus is shifted onto this new witch character, and the main villain, the guy villain who should be the main villain, plays second fiddle to this new creation, which just sounds bizarre. And yeah, it just feels like it's got none of the heart or charm or the story, especially the character of Mulan. If you just have Mulan be instantly great at something and not have to work hard at anything, not have to prove herself, not have to dig deep or anything like that, or work way harder than anyone else to get to where she does to become the hero of China.
Genuinely, when there's the kind of instead of it being sticking the thing on top of the flagpole, she has to carry buckets of water up a mountain without spilling a drop, and most people only get halfway. But then suddenly she's told by, I can't remember if it was the witch or whether she kind of was told by herself to use the chi, and then suddenly she used the chi and she does it first time. It's like
there's no struggle, there's no growth. It's a boring character. It sounds a lot like another lead female character in another in a sci-fi franchise. But my point is, I'm not against strong female characters in films. I'm not. It sounds like I'm always being like a misogynist or a dick when I say this, but it's sort of the modern trend of female characters. It's in a pitfall. They don't know how to write them. They just think if we want a strong character, she's got to be like God mode. You look at Captain Marvel, you look at Rey, you look at, by the sounds of it, Mulan in this film. That's not how you write one. Mulan from this film is a strong female character, and I think that if there are any sort of like girls that are looking for sort of role models in film, parents should just show their kids the original film, because not only does it tell the story better, but the themes and what it means to the character and what kids can take away from. Even me as an adult, when I watch this film, like she's a great fucking character, because she starts off, she's consistently clumsy throughout the film. She's kind of endearing, but she proves herself. And she works hard and she proves herself equal to anyone else. That's not obviously like the big theme at the end of the film. But the fact that there's this witch character, and this is going to sort of go into my closing thoughts, the fact that there's this witch character and that she's a female warrior as well, accepted in this world, that completely dismantles the theme of Mulan. Mulan is unique and special because that's precisely the case. This has never been done before. Mulan becoming a soldier, doing all of these great things, has never been heard of, looked down upon. Impossible, cannot happen. The fact that it does happen makes her unique. When you add another female warrior into the world, and God knows how many other ones there are, well, that takes away from Mulan's special quality, because now there are all of these other characters that can do it and are great fighters and are accepted. So you've instantly lost the whole theme and the whole point. And that comes to my final point. It misses the point of what Mulan is. It cherry picks all these like key scenes you remember from the original film, but it misses out on the heart and the story and the meaning. And that doesn't just go for this film in particular. It goes for all of the other live action films. So I'm very glad that I didn't watch this film. I probably won't watch any of the other live action films that come out unless they start, getting good reviews, or they actually do justice or do something and build upon the original, which none of them are doing at the moment. And I hope this film crashes and burns. I hope it doesn't make any money, but we know that it will. It'll at least break even.
I mean, my final thoughts on this film, because I've talked this one, Steph, but my final thoughts are I hope this film gets completely lambasted. I hope people do follow through with their boycott of it. I mean, I watched it, but I didn't pay for it. I hope people watch this film but don't pay for it if they're going to watch it. I hope that the press just completely rips it to shreds. I hope it gets the lowest possible rating it can on any review site. I really do. I don't wish review bombing even on the worst films, but this one deserves it. This one deserves to be rated as low as it is. And I'm looking at the reviews now. It's above 5 out of 10 on IMDb. It should be lower than that. It should be way lower. 75% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. That's fine. It's on like 50% for the reviewers as well. It should be way lower than that as well.
But this is the thing with these films, just going back to the last two, I know we've already brought them up, but bringing them up again to round off. Problem is these films make money, and, Carl says that he hasn't seen it either and he's refusing to pay. With films like this, with audiences, you have to put your money where your mouth is. If you want to see more of these films, you'll pay, you'll go and see it. So, hey, if you want to see more of these live action remakes, then chances are you've already paid your premium to watch Mulan already. Chances are you probably like Mulan. And chances are you've probably created multiple Disney Plus accounts and bought it on each one of those, so you get more of these.
Is there a bias there that if you've paid for the film, you're more likely to show bias, especially if you're paying that much of a premium? You're more likely to enjoy it out of the fact that you want to because of that money you spent?
I know. Well, my sister knows one person that bought it because they love the original. And I said, well, why did they buy it if they like the original for? And they were disappointed that the dragon was in it. Well, a simple Google could have told you that before. I think there'll be people that try and justify the fact they spend £20-30 on it. Again, I get it from a family perspective. There'll probably be parents that probably watch this with their kids because the kids want to see it. That's just life. It happens to parents. That's why they go to cinema a lot anyway. Certainly with kids, parents make sacrifices. But I can't imagine many people paying for this. Certainly our age group, our demographic, I think that's a more important thing. I think the real test will be Black Widow if that does move to the premium service, because the concept is there, but with a Marvel film, that is when something big is going to happen. I think I would pay for Black Widow for different reasons more than the fact it's just Marvel. But there'll be people that will buy this, and maybe they got too much money to spend, and they thought we thought it'd be good, and it wasn't. So I think it would just be any other film. I mean, that video on demand stuff going on. Trying not to talk about it because it's been going on so long, but video on demand, it's expensive, man. Like, considering again you don't own it. Like, if you get old films, it's fine, but all the new ones are sort of like £14. It's the price of the Blu-rays. Just get a disc.
Yeah,
saving in the long term. And I know people don't want it. People want condensed collections. I understand all that, but there's something nicer about having it in person anyway, even if it is crap. But yeah, this will be. Yeah, this film.
But the thing is with Disney, and I know what you're saying, like about it's the same company but different filmmakers and everything like that. But if we're criticizing Disney for doing these horrible things, especially surrounding this movie, or turning a blind eye, or even contribute whatever, we won't know, and we'll never know the ins and outs of it, because that's top. They've got top men working on it. But we're bad-mouthing Disney right now and completely lambasting them as a company, as a studio, for doing everything they've done. But when the next film comes out, Black Widow, we're all going to go and see it. We're all probably going to like it and enjoy it, and we'll all be back to normal. And we've got the new, the new Pixar film. We've got the new Disney animated film, and everyone will be big smiles. So if we don't want to be hypocrites, then we should completely turn our back on Disney now. But I know that we're not going to, and this will be like a drop in the ocean because it is centered specifically on this film. So the question is like, where do you draw the line? Do you just sort of target this film, or do you look at Disney as a whole, as a company? Because I know for me, like for the live action, certainly I'm not going to give my money to them. I'm not going to watch any of them from here on in. I didn't with Lion King. I haven't with this, and I won't for Little Mermaid or any of the other ones, because I just see them as completely pointless. That's sort of like my personal stand on those films. And whilst I agree that Disney as a company are complete pieces of shit, like for everything they've done, the higher ups and everything, we're still all going to go back and we're still all going to be there for Black Widow if it comes out, you know?
The problem is, on that point, this is probably a really good discussion to have on the channel, maybe, but the Disney, the parent company, like Kevin Feige was working on the MCU before Disney owned Marvel. You know, Kathleen Kennedy was hired by George Lucas, not Kevin Feige. She was not hired by Bob Iger. She was employed by George Lucas for him to sell the company 3 months later. A lot of these bigger things, Pixar, again, yes, every film has been via Disney, but Pixar were their own company for so many years before the takeover. And the problem is, you're absolutely right. Does it make us hypocrites? I don't know. That certainly the one franchise that Disney has always owned is the live action, not live action, sorry, the animated classic. Mm-hmm. And this is a direct. This is Walt Disney's. This isn't, you know, Marvel Studios. This isn't Lucasfilm. This isn't Pixar. This is it's got the Walt Disney entrance. I'm guessing there's a probably really cool Chinese castle or something.
I actually cannot remember.
But the problem is that there are so many things, and I think it's unfair on the people underneath that some of these filmmakers are just making films. It's a project they've wanted to have done, and it's an interesting debate that I don't think we've got time for tonight. But I completely understand where you're coming from, and there are certainly very good points to take from that. But then also it means people that, you know, again, it's just a parent company. If you worked for Marvel, you know, you might have been working Marvel for 20 years, and you might have seen them under 3 different owners. So it's a really interesting dynamic, but for these, like I need to sort of not simmer down, but they have to address this. You can't just not. And I know maybe that makes me sound naive, but long term wise, these live action projects aren't. This is going to be a shadow that hangs over certainly the live action ones. Mm-hmm. Again, Marvel, all the other ones that are parent companies, are sub companies that have been bought by Disney, they have their own system. They buy them. They kind of let them get on with it. They fund their films. They make the money. It's a simple agreement. You know, Bob Iger, to be fair to him, has come out in the past and said, well, Solo was completely my fault. I will take all responsibility for Solo. I pushed that May release. May release didn't work. It was a bomb. That is all on me. Some stuff like that, that's when they get involved, is more the financial side. But I don't think this Mulan, this is going to affect future projects. Obviously, from what I know, Hunchback of Notre Dame's in pre-production. Little Mermaid was filming just before lockdown kicked off. I'm going to bring up Carl's comment because I've spoke about this a lot off channel. Disney had a bad couple of weeks of this in Star Wars. One of the most, I've seen interesting, but one of the most sort of more annoying, not annoying, one of the most disgusting things I've seen for a while was the incredible John Boyega GQ interview, which was last Tuesday, I believe. And within, it went online in the morning in the UK, which is in the night in America. When they all woke up, switched on their lights, and saw John Boyega went in on them all, it was like, quick, activate Mandalorian button. And then the Mandalorian release date came out. No trailer, no interviews. Interviews came all this week. They pulled that release date a week early because they just wanted to detract the attention from John Boyega. And, the Mandalorian marketing system is kicked on for this week and next week onwards. That release date had no impact on anything. That was just them trying to, look, Mandalorian news. They're in, even Daisy Ridley this week, her 40-second interview where she kind of summed up the sequel trilogy in terms of Kenobi, Nobody, Palpatine, not Palpatine, Palpatine. That's the 40-second interview. So all I'm saying, guys, is wait for the Dune marketing when Oscar Isaac sits down and starts doing his interviews. Then we'll have the main trio that have all gone in. So, yeah, that's everything I can probably say on. Like I said, I can speak about the film, but I don't think any of us thought that the run-up of this would be almost as long as the animated Mulan film.
No.
But in terms of good, positive things, people tuning in, the next review, if you're already not depressed by this, is the new Charlie Kaufman film.
Have you guys seen it yet? That's the question.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, okay. I'm still need to watch Bill and Ted next week.
I've seen both Mulan and this film. Interesting. But yeah. We'll be on for that review on Saturday. I'm assuming it'll be the same usual time, 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I guess it's time for us to very quickly do our socials and stuff like that. This has been quite a long review. It feels weird that we're advertising for ourselves after going so hard in another company. But please go follow us on the various different social medias. So that is On Facebook, if you type in Cinema Savvy on Facebook, we show up. On Twitter, cinema_savvy is our @ on that. And if you go to the description down below, you will see our TeePublic page where you can pick up a t-shirt like this, or one with the Nolan print, which I'm going to point to the right side down there, which looks really cool. And I've yet to get myself one, but I do kind of want one before, well, no, the month's over. They won't be there for long. So keep an eye on that. But anyway, yeah, please tune in to our review of I'm Thinking of Ending Things on Saturday. Please follow us on the social medias, keep up with all the other things we've got going on. We've got ourselves a schedule going now. So we're going to have loads of content coming out over the next few weeks. I want to thank you guys for coming along to me ranting about this film and you guys ranting about the film from the outside. And we will see you guys in the next one.
And let's hope Disney implodes on itself like a dying star.